Hi, I'm Angie Pontani, the burlesque superstar who has spent the last 20 years shimmying and shaking around the globe. I've performed in showrooms, ballrooms, small rooms, and big rooms, every room except a mushroom. Along the way, I've met some amazing people, and I'd like to introduce them to you. Together, we will pull back the curtain to reveal what really happens behind the glitter, feathers, and tassels. So join me for the bump and grind. From the streets of New York City to Oberlin College and then back to the streets of New York City, David Bishop is perhaps the most in-demand stage manager working in burlesque. He started in the gritty backstages, born of the revival in the late 90s and early 2000s, and has worked straight through to the largest festivals and competitions in the world, including my show, the New York Burlesque Festival, and even the Burlesque Hall of Fame in Las Vegas, Nevada. David Bishop is a friendly, warm, and functioning face backstage that keeps the wheels moving with a wink, smile, and gentle hand. He has been stage side for some of the most notorious moments in neo-burlesque history, from award-winning performances to heart-stopping accidents. And I was really thrilled to sit down and chat with him about everything he's seen and experienced from his unique perspective of truly peeking from behind the curtain. So let's welcome to the bump and grind, the one and only David Bishop. David Bishop, welcome to the bump and grind.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to see you, even though it's just on a computer screen.
I'm happy to see you too.
So how have you been doing in this year of 2020?
Surprisingly, I've been doing okay. It's been very strange and very lonely, for me personally, because I'm living with my fiance, but, not seeing anyone else has been, except, over a computer, has been very weird.
It's a strange thing, but I think for you too, this is probably the longest that you've been home in a long time, right? I mean, you travel quite a bit. This is confined to New York City for a long period of time.
Yeah, no, it's been ridiculous. There were so many trips that got canceled. It was just unbelievable.
Well, I know, and it remains unbelievable. But I'm very excited to have you on, and I have been since we first talked about it, because I think that you bring a really unique perspective to burlesque, to behind the scenes, to the growth in the movement. I mean, as a stage manager, I think you look at it with a different lens, and I'm very excited to get into that, because we have worked together for a long time. We have a lot of shared experiences, and I'm excited to talk to you. But this is my first question. Do you remember when we first met? Because I've been racking my brains out on when that initial moment that we first gazed into each other's eyes might have been.
I don't, because that is
Neither
not my strong. That's not my strong suit. I never remember when I first met anybody. But I think it was most likely at the Vava Voom Room at Fez. I think that was probably the first time.
Doing Miss Astrid's Kate Valentine's show, because you were the stage manager for that show. How did you find Kate? How did you get into that whole scene? Because that was quite early. I mean, Vava Voom Room was early 2000s, New York City. Yeah. One of the most swinging shows in town, under Fez, always packed. All the New York City original performers really came out of there as one of the spaces that we kind of all gathered around. And that's right, you were back there, standing next to the set list, crossing people off with your marker. How did you find yourself there?
So I was stage managing an Irish play at the Clemente Soto Velez Cultural Center on Suffolk Street in Manhattan, and that is where Kate first had the Vava Voom Room. She did a show that I believe was called Holidays on Ice, and then she did one called Springtime Follies, and then she did one called Carney Town. And I think it was Springtime Follies. I could have those out of order. I think it was Springtime Follies that we shared the same stage. We were the 8 o'clock show and they were the 10 o'clock show. And that's how we met, because the set for my Irish play, very bizarre, abstract Irish play, was a junkyard. And when the set designer designed our set, they didn't know there was going to be a show after us. No one had told us.
So they had to do their show in a junkyard.
So no, actually, we had to clear off everything. The first time we had to clear off everything, and it took like a humongously long time. But then the designer came in and put stuff on pallets and whatever, so we could lift stuff and take it off, in an easier fashion. And they actually sort of brought a stage in and did some wacky stuff and put fabric around and hung all sorts of stuff to really sort of make it look very different than our set. And it was actually very frustrating to have to do that transition because
I can imagine.
Once they were done, we had to reset it for our show and stuff like that. And especially since we hadn't known initially, which was no fault of the Vava Vroom Rooms. It was just the fault of whoever was booking the space.
Well, but that was very kind of you because do you remember when we were doing our run at the Soho Playhouse of Burlescapades and they put a show in before us that had a set that was a living room and we ended up having to do our show in a living room? There was like shelves and like rugs and we were just like, okay. And we literally did our show in a living room. So
we had to set up that little drum that I was hitting.
Yeah,
Remember
you played the drums.
I played the drum. Yeah.
Oh my God, that's right. Oh no. All right. So back to Kate. So you guys are doing the show in the shared space.
So we're in the shared space.
You're breaking down the set.
And, as we would break ourselves down and they would set up, we'd chat and they were like, oh, you should come see our show, And so eventually I stayed and I watched their show. And I'm pretty sure Julie Atlas Muse was in that show because Julie and I went to college together.
And you knew Julie from
school. Yeah, I knew Julie from college. She's we're not in the same class, but we knew each other by face and stuff. And so I can't remember if Julie was in that show or if she was in the next show. But anyway, after that show closed, they were doing a show called Carney Town, and we'd gotten to know each other just because we were sharing a space. And she was like, oh, do you know any male dancers? I need a male dancer. And I was like, well, I'm a male who can move to music. Like, what exactly, like, how much dance do you need? And she's like, oh, like, it's not complicated. And so I actually ended up being in Carney Town in that show, not stage managing it at all, just being in the show. I played a Siamese twin, or a co-joined twin, excuse me, new term, who had been separated at birth. So that we were attached at like the hip or I guess I think in the show it was like we were sort of attached at the torso, like on the side. Mm-hmm. And we were chopped in half by an axe and we crawled in opposite directions in the carnival town, and then we met up as adults and fell in love. So we were gay, like former brothers that didn't know we were brothers. I mean, it was the 90s.
That's a lot.
Yeah. And the guy playing my twin was this really muscular, beefy. He was either sort of like a Thai Filipino mix, so we looked nothing alike. Because I'm super skinny and very, very white, and he was very bulky, and so it was very funny. And we would just draw X's, like a very ridiculous scar on opposite sides of our torsos where we'd been cut in half.
Yeah, like a literal X.
Yeah,
with a Sharpie.
Yes. But anyway, so I did that show, and Julie was in that show, and Raquel was in that show. Cuckoo Bijou was also in that show, and a bunch of other people. And I actually had to pick Julie up during a dance number. We were a carousel, so I guess like the women were the carousel horses maybe, and we were just holding them, and they were like doing these movements with their arms and
like
heads and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Julie is taller than I am, and so I go to pick her up, and she's like, oh, that's not going to work, and she basically just sort of positioned herself like on me, like she's basically holding up most of her own weight, and I'm just sort of pretending that I'm holding her up, where she's basically holding herself up. Go Julie.
Showbiz.
But showbiz, yeah, it was really because Julie was only in that piece like I don't know every other show, because there was another woman named Christine Holt who was in it, and she was much smaller. She was like very short and very lightweight, so I could pick her up.
I didn't even know about this show. I never even knew about that show. I don't remember it in my brain.
Yeah, it was really. It might have even been 1999. I'm not sure, but it was called Carney Town. So anyway, they did that show, and then I think after Carney Town, we moved to Show World. I think.
Yes. Yeah.
And then.
Oh wait, was
maybe
Show World after Fez?
And maybe Show World was after Fez. I can't remember.
Show World was after Fez because it was after. Yeah, I believe it was, but
you're probably right.
Also a
you're
mishmash.
Right.
But yeah, I think
you're probably right.
How did you go from being on the stage to being captain behind the stage?
I can't remember who the stage manager was. Maybe the stage manager was Eric or something. But they needed someone. I think I ran the spotlight first, I think. And then I subbed in for Carrie Dexter. And because she wanted to do DJ work. So she went and she did. And so they needed a stage manager. And so sometimes I ran the spotlight. Sometimes I would stage manage. It just sort of depended. And then, because I had been a stage manager at college.
And is that what you wanted to be? Was that the path that you were choosing to follow?
I don't think so. No, I wanted to be a performer. I think I wanted to be on stage. But when I came back to New York from college in Ohio at Oberlin, I got my first paid gig was as a stage manager, actually as an assistant stage manager. And then I got another paid gig as an assistant stage manager, and then a paid gig as a stage manager, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it just all sort of snowballed from there. And I just kept getting gigs. Back in the day, like the Vava Vumrum time, I was doing shows like 4 or 5 times a week at night.
Yeah.
Back when that was a thing.
Right. And I feel like too, like when talking about like that period in time, and it's actually kind of still the same in this period of time, it's like, even if you're a performer in a show, you're still gonna like grab the spotlight, pull the curtain. Like in this scene of Burlesque and in downtown New York, entertainment and theater, I think it's kind of like an everybody pitches in and wears all these different hats. So obviously this hat fit you very well.
Yeah, no, definitely. And that's super true. I mean, sometimes if there was a curtain, we'd have some performer working the curtain. If I had to move a table or a chair or something like that, So yeah, you're totally right. Everyone is always doing lots of different things, especially at the early days of the Slip Room before the new building.
Oh gosh,
Yeah.
Well, even in the new building, you still open the curtain for the act that goes on like before or after you. They have like a hole cut out in the wall so you could be in the dressing room and like stick your arm through and you could still do the curtain.
No way.
Yes
oh
way.
God.
Yes
That's
way.
amazing.
I hadn't been at the Slipper Room in years, and Sir Richard Castle had asked me to do one of his shows, and I went and did it, and I actually did a couple this year before everything ended, and it was really funny because it's like you stick your hand through and you pull the curtain, and it's fun. It's a lot of pressure though. See, like just to pull the curtain. I mean, how hard is it to pull a curtain? It's not hard to pull a curtain, but the minute that like Gal Friday is like, will you pull my curtain for me? This amazing New York City performer, and I'm like, yeah, but then like I feel like this intense amount of pressure to pull that curtain. That is a lot of pressure.
Here's the thing. It's not hard to pull a curtain, but it can be hard to pull a curtain correctly.
Yes, it can be. You could do it incorrectly, and then you could panic, and then you're just like, ah! And then the curtain doesn't open.
And it's also hard to do it at the right time and at the right... Well, it's not hard, but it can be. If someone's just like, pull the curtain, and they don't give you any instructions, and then afterwards they're like, oh, I wanted you to pull it really slow, or I wanted you to pull it...
Artistic.
I wanted you to pull it, after, I did at this point in the music or something like that. It's like, oh, well, I didn't have that information,
No.
So it is a whole, it's a lot of pressure. And also there's a lot of things that can go wrong, that you might not expect, that you might not expect.
Well, there's a lot of things that can go wrong. And like you said, I think a lot of performers don't think 360 about their acts. They have a vision inside their head, but they might not share all the details that will help you as support in the position to make their dreams come true. Like they don't have a specific vision about lighting or the curtain. Just you don't think about things. We all like imagine our act in a certain way, but don't know all the pieces to put together to make it come across that way. So I think that has to be challenging when you work with so many different performers.
Early in the process of working with performers, what happens in tech could be totally different than what happens during the show. It's like, oh, where did all that food come from? Or where did all that glitter come from? Or where did all that liquid come from? And it's like, so now, as you know, when we do the New York Burlesque Festival, or whenever I do any festival, I'm always like, is there any food, liquid, or glitter in your act? You know, and a lot of people are like, why? Why do you ask that? It's like, because during tech, and you have to ask, because, or fire, or aerial, you know, or something like that. Because
suddenly you have to ask. I ask before, but then you have to ask again, because sometimes someone will be like, you know, what's going to make my act amazing? This like glitter bomb. And then it's just, if we're not prepared for it, we're...
This glitter cannon that I'm going to shoot off right before the legend walks on stage. So you just, and most of the time asking questions beforehand works, but other times, as you know, it doesn't, because they want to surprise you. It's like, oh, something's on fire on stage. That didn't happen in tech. Hope that's supposed to happen.
I don't like surprises. I swear, I think I must have a reputation as like the naysayer, because with the festival, it's like, I think we learned so early. Somebody will be like, I want to bring it. I'm like, no. It has got to be so worth it, because we have no real estate, the cleanup time, like everything. So I always feel like that.
Yeah, the New York Festival is one of my favorite festivals, because you will actually say no.
Yeah,
so many other producers, you know, they don't have the cachet or the clout of New York, so they feel pressured, you know, to be like, oh yeah, okay. And then it can be disastrous for the act that follows it. You know,
absolutely. But I feel like we've learned from experience as well, because we've been doing this for so long that it's like you learn, you can't stop the show to bring on this giant prop that's going to take 45 minutes to get on stage, or, oh no.
And then another 45 to get off stage.
Right, totally. And half of the venues in New York City, I was going to talk about this later, but I think it's funny now. It's like everybody thinks of New York and you're like, oh, it's the entertainment capital of the world. We have these amazing venues. We have the tiniest dressing rooms. We never have wings. And if we do, they're tiny and they can't fit anything in them. So it's like, you really just have to, you know, sparkle from the inside when you get out there. And if you're going to bring a prop, it's like a chair. Okay. A boa. I consider that a prop. Like,
or it has to collapse because there's nowhere to store anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. So you got sucked into, the burlesque hole. It started with Miss Astrid, Carney Town, went on to the Vava Voom Room. You're in New York City. You went to Fancy Pants Theater School. You are artistic spirit, surrounded by so many different genres of theater. You were in an Irish play, you know. What made you stay with us? Why?
Why,
David? Why?
It's funny because I was always doing other forms of theater when I was doing burlesque, because, you know, as you know, a lot of burlesque happens on the weekends or late at night. So I could do an 8 o'clock show and a midnight show, or a 8 o'clock show and an 11 o'clock or 10 o'clock show. So,
and when you were doing these shows, were you stage managing them, or were you performing and then you would come down and stage manage, or both?
Sometimes both. Most of the time stage managing. I worked for an organization called New York Theater Ballet, which was basically ballets on a smaller scale. I mean, they had huge, ridiculous sets that we had to move that were very difficult to set up, but and break down and transport. But I would stage manage for that, and it was ballet for children, basically for students.
Oh,
and
that's
so
cool.
It was great. I worked with them a lot. I've done other, you know, just regular plays and musicals and stuff like that. I work with an organization called Emerging Artist Theater, EAT. I work with another organization called TASOS, The Other Side of Silence, which is a LGBTQ play organization. So I've always been working with other, you know, when the burlesque isn't happening, you know, with other stuff. I've always been doing that.
You're a native New Yorker, which is rare, right?
I am.
Born and bred. Are you born and bred Upper West Side? Upper East Side?
No.
Upper?
I was actually born in Spain, but
what?
What? Yeah, in Madrid. Surprise.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, no, my mom got on a plane. I was born in July. My mom got on a plane in June.
Oh my God, stop it.
No, had me in July and came back on September 3rd. So I was only in Spain, from when I was born in July to September 3rd, and then we flew back.
Was it a vacation?
I mean, vacation in quotes, No, my sister was my older sister was born in Spain, so my mother knew the doctor in the hospital. So when she got pregnant again, they were just like, let's. And also, I mean, there was a cost factor because Spain, when I was born 100,000 years ago, was under Franco, and it was very inexpensive. Whereas in Manhattan, it was, hospitals were rather expensive.
I'm sure.
So I mean, I'm sure there were many, many factors involved, but I'm sure one was, hey, be in Spain in the summertime as opposed to being in Manhattan in the summertime, which is, as we know, in July and August is basically just, you're drenched all the time. Mm-hmm. So be in Spain in the summer, have the doctor that you knew, have the hospital that you knew, have it not cost you an arm and a leg, and also they had lived in Spain in a year for a whole year. My father was teaching, a couple of years previous to me being born. So they knew people there and everything.
Wait, your parents, your parents like professors or something like
teachers? Yeah. My father's my father's a college professor and a psychologist, and my mother is a teacher. Yeah.
Did you have a lot of arts in your life growing up, or are you?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Yeah. My father took us to see Broadway shows when I was in elementary school, and I don't know, fourth, fifth grade, something like that. One of my friends, his dad was playing FDR on Broadway in Annie.
So cool. Oh my God.
And so we went to see Annie, like, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 times standing room. So I can basically recite Annie, but we would go standing room to see stuff, and I'm, I don't know, 7, 6, I don't know, something.
That's so cool. What a great experience. That had to be really formative to grow up with that and your world traveling at infancy.
Yes. And my dad would also take us to see the Nutcracker and other ballets. And he would, he'd buy tickets in the, like the 4th tier or the 3rd tier, like way up.
Yeah.
So that, cause he would bring, there were 3 of us at the time. He would bring the 3 of us and so we could, if we talked or whatever, there weren't that many people around because we were on the side.
Yeah, not the extreme pressure that you feel.
So it's not like we were
bringing your kids.
Yeah, exactly. So
living in constant terror of getting yelled at by someone.
Exactly. He would. So of course, we would have to be quiet, but we were children, so it's not like we weren't perfect.
No, and you can whisper something to one another and kind of experience it and not have to sit there like shush shush shush. So like you grew up with all this experience. You grew up in the city. When you were exposed to the nightlife, the burlesque scene, like the underground of the downtown, it did not shock you.
No, I went to Oberlin, so I was kind of hard to shock.
Yes.
So and
I've heard
also,
rumors about Oberlin.
And also, growing up in Manhattan, in Chelsea and Greenwich Village, I think I might have been a little hard to shock.
Yeah, right? I mean, you've seen it. You grew up around it. Because,
New York City in the 80s and 90s was a very, very different place. Mm-hmm. So,
No, absolutely. And I mean, we've seen all the changes of that. I mean, when you started out at that point in time, the venues are obviously still people play a lot of the smaller venues, but the crowds changed, the performance styles have changed, and you've been present backstage through all of that, really.
Yeah.
Could you have imagined that you would still be stage managing and performing in burlesque shows, 20 years later, 21 years later?
No, not at all.
Could you have imagined that you would have gone from, stage managing shows at Fez and Show World to doing these big shows in Vegas or all over the world? Because you travel and you stage manage festivals everywhere with hundreds of people and on these big stages.
I never imagined
tech cruise.
Yeah, I mean New Zealand, Tokyo. Never imagine.
Is it hard to go to another country and run the show and to communicate with the crew and to communicate with the lights and the curtain and like the whole tech situation? Is that a challenge that you find? And performers, when you're working with performers who are from all over the world?
Yes. But I've been very lucky where, like when I was in Macau, we had a translator. When I was in Tokyo, we had a translator, which was very, very necessary.
Oh yeah.
and extremely helpful. And I actually am still in contact with one of the translators on Facebook from Tokyo. But no, I mean, as you know, because you travel internationally as well, it's very different, and it can be some things can be shocking.
Well, and I feel, yes, I travel and, whatever, but I'm only responsible for myself. The stage manager has so much power in a show that I don't think people realize, like, just in terms of not only the pacing to be sure that everybody's ready, but also, like, you bring a sense of peace to the producers, to the host. Like, a competent stage manager allows the performers and everybody who's doing their own thing to do it with a relief, and they're able to do their jobs to its full potential. So I would be incredibly terrified if I had to go somewhere where I knew not everyone and I wasn't sure of the environment and do what you do. Like, that's challenging.
Yes and no. I mean, I think, I think you just have to go in and smile and be confident, and just, even if you don't feel like you're in charge, act like you're in charge, and kind of
favorite things.
And just kind of act like you know what you're doing.
Yeah. Your calmness is overwhelming.
It's all a lie. No, I'm totally kidding. No, you just you gotta. And also, one thing that I learned really, really early on, and this is at my very first stage managing job, is if something goes wrong and you freak out and you yell, or you get stressed out, that doesn't help. It doesn't solve the problem.
No.
And it might make you feel better for a moment, but it doesn't solve the problem. There's a problem that has to be solved. So if you can keep a clear head, and if you can think, okay, what's going to solve this problem? Is my getting angry going to solve this problem? Is my yelling going to solve this problem? Or is my, taking a deep breath and trying to just find a solution, and trying to get people on my side, and trying to get people to work with me to do what I want them to do, which can be very hard, especially because one thing that I always tell people, at festivals or at shows is, we're in a venue one night out of 365 days. And, the next day we're going to be gone, and the light guy and the sound guy and the tech guy and whatever, they're still, that's their job. They're going to be there. So it doesn't really matter what they do. Obviously, if they do something horrible, they might lose their job, but they might not,
Yeah.
And that's one of the sort of challenges that we face going into a venue for one day and then just being gone, is they don't really have to do what we want them to do.
And I want to touch on like what you said too, though, about like getting angry and all this and that, because I think too, especially when you talk about like the larger festivals and the larger shows, there's a tremendous amount of pressure on the performers. And as a producer, I always feel pressure when people come to the festival, because I know they've gone to great expense to be there, and I know it's a big deal for them, and you want to make the most of their 3 minutes on stage. So when something does go wrong, I always am like fighting, I think I stay pretty cool, right? I mean, I stay pretty cool, but there's always such a pressure that I want these people to have the best experience that they possibly can. So I'm always like just a little itchy in my trigger finger, because anything that goes wrong and that could affect that makes me anxious, because I just want people to come and I want them to have a great time, and I want their lights to be great, and I want everything to be great. But you're so right. It's like you can't get angry and you can't panic, because not only does it not help things, it makes them worse.
Right. No, it's true. And it's, and yeah, there's so much pressure because they want the photographs to be good, and you want the video to be good, and, you want to see people's facial expressions. And so, it's definitely a challenge. It's a real challenge, because as you can tell a light person, one thing, and it can go one way in tech, and then sometimes you get a completely new light person for the show. Yes. And it's like, oh no, what happened to the person who worked this out? And maybe they left a note for the guy, and maybe they didn't, and then you have to tell somebody all over again, or you just have to hope. And sometimes you can be on headset with someone and be like, oh, do this, and they'll do the complete opposite. And it's not that they're malicious. It's just sometimes they don't understand it, or they didn't see it. They weren't at tech or whatever, or they have a different vision than you have, or they don't understand what's happening. I mean, it can be very, very challenging.
Or often the people that are lighting these rooms in these clubs aren't used to burlesque shows, especially for us. Our venues are live music venues, and they're used to like, these rock shows. Some of them are like used to bands bringing in their own lighting people, so they don't even do lights half the times. They might just stand there. So it's always a challenge, and we're always going back and forth. I'm always running back and forth. We're bringing them up. We're bringing them down. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But then things happen. Like, remember our first year at Sony Hall when the light rig that lit the center of the stage blew out after 2 acts, and they could not fix it. Do you remember? So it was the center of the stage was a black hole, and it was like, it could not be fixed. It could not be fixed.
And you have this moment of you're like, do we tell the performers, oh, don't go in the center of the stage? That choreography that you did during tech and that rehearsal you did, don't dance in the center of the stage. It's like what do you and it's just like, but
that's showbiz. And you saw the performers, like the first couple that started to realize what was happening to find their light, but it was really hard. And we did tell people, but it's hard to not go to the center of the stage, and you get in there and you get in that zone, and it's like, things happen. That was terrible, but they could not. I mean, the lights blew out. The club had just opened. They didn't know how to fix it. The show started. There was nothing that could be done other than to tell everybody, dance on the outside of the stage.
That's right.
Counterintuitive.
Go to the front. Go to the front.
Stay on the front and the sides and just stay there. That was a challenge. What are some of the most challenging moments that you think that you've had as a stage manager?
Well, I was at a venue, and we had a band on stage, live band, which is amazing. It's always great fun to have a live band. And the lighting guy was lighting the band, but not the dancers.
Oh, no.
And so, I was like, hey, those dancers on stage, far stage right and far stage left, they're dancing their asses off, but there's no light on them. Can we get some light on them? And he's like, no. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? He's like, oh, there's no lights that reach, that point, that hit that part of the stage. And so I'm looking up at the rig, and I'm seeing all these lights, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, let's move some of them. He's like, oh, we can't do that. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, yeah, we can't do it. I'm like, oh, okay, well, do you have a ladder? I'll move them, you know? And he's like, what? And I was like, yeah, give me a ladder. I'll move them. He's like, what? And I was like, do you have a ladder? And then of course it was this big deal because I don't work there. I wasn't even from that city, and I was going to get on the ladder and start, messing with their lights. And so that whole bunch of people were like, in a hubbub about it. And eventually they got up and they moved they did move the lights, but then they didn't want to turn them on. It was just, it was a big thing, and that was one of the very few times where I started to yell, and I was just like, because the producer who really liked the dancers walked in the room, and I was being ignored, basically. And sort of stonewalled. And I was like, and so I started to raise my voice. And then the producer turned and was like, what's going on? Because as you know, I don't yell.
I've never seen you yell.
And so it was, and so the producer took some people aside and there was lots of gesturing and loud voices. And then I got what I wanted, or needed. I mean, it wasn't not, I wanted it for the dancers.
Yes.
They were working really hard, and they'd practiced and choreographed this, and, and you couldn't see them, and it was just, there was a solution. You just move the light and turn it on. It's not, obviously it took time, but it wasn't impossible. So that was also
part of the show. It's part of what people are paying to see and to experience.
Right. And the thing is that the guy who was directing, he was with the band, he wasn't with us. We were brought in as a special thing, and he didn't care, cause we weren't part of his thing. So he wanted, as long as his band looked good, he wasn't interested. So it was a matter of being like, okay, no, actually, we're here. We're part of the show. We've been hired by the producer, just like you have, you need to respect us and respect the dancers, and it'll be a better show, you know? So that was challenging.
Sometimes not sometimes. Now that we play a lot of the same places over and over, I think you get into a groove, and we work year after year with a lot of the same light people and the same sound people. So it certainly has gotten better for us. But there have been some years where we have like run up against a lot of opposition with sound and light people as far as it goes, and I feel like we've worked out kind of like a good cop bad cop like routine, you know, that we do.
No, I agree, and I think it really does go back to the fact that we're there for one night out of their entire year, and it's no big deal to them. They haven't rehearsed for hours and hours. They haven't, you know, taken a month to make a costume, you know. This isn't their big thing. They didn't travel
and we're high maintenance as far as they're concerned. They're like, wait, there's like 50 people in the show?
Right, exactly.
There's somebody different coming on every 2 minutes. Like, this is more than they're required to pay attention to, I think, on a typical night. It's really outside of the wheelhouse.
But, you know, you and I have both sort of either said it outright or implied, you know, hey, there's going to be naked ladies on stage and they're going to be amazing. So, you know, you get a bonus. You know, I mean, like, you know,
especially if you don't put on a green light.
So, you know, so you try every way you can, you know, to get them on your side and, you know, get them invested. Yeah. You know, get them invested in the show and be like, oh, you know, it's going to be such a good show. And these people traveled from, you know, Sweden, or they traveled from Tokyo or whatever just to be here. So, you know, if you could really, you know, make them look great, that would be super helpful. You know,
yeah, and that is the thing, too. The key is to get them on your side and to make them want to make it work and to make it want to look great. And I think we've learned that with a lot of the people that we work with, too, is then they start to get excited about it and be like, oh, I can do whatever I want. Oh, I can make it look like thunderclaps, and I can put in all these strobes and do all this stuff that I couldn't typically do. And then they get excited about it and they come around. But what do you think? Because I think you have a unique insight here, too. It's like, what can producers do to help like smooth this out? Like, what do you think people can do to make it an easier transition? Because like with us too in the festival, you know, we are a one-day thing in that club. We come in earlier than they let anybody else come in earlier so that we can tech every single performer. But essentially we have to get it all done within that like 3 hours, 4 hours before the show starts. We're jamming everybody in there, you know, one after another. They get 3 or 4 minutes on stage to run it, to talk to the light people. I mean, like, is there things that producers can do to kind of streamline it and smooth it out to make it a smoother experience? I mean,
I think the most important thing is to plan ahead and get as much in writing or in an email as you can. Make sure your contracts are really super clear. And make sure that, you know, you visit the venue or have someone visit the venue and, you know, do your best to find out who is going to be working. And if you work with that person before, you can even request, you know, oh, we had this guy last year, you know, or last month or whatever, you know, can that person come back? We had this woman, can she come back or whatever? But, you know, and ask lots of questions and also tell them what you need, but do this, you know, months. You're great at that. Do it months in advance. And at least then it's like, oh, you know, what do you mean you need 4 microphones? It's like, oh, it's right here in this email that we sent a month ago. Yes. You know, we've had that happen, you know.
Yeah, but that's my favorite thing. I'm like, oh, you don't have the email? I do. And then I open up my Trapper Keeper binder and pull it out.
Yeah, and that's and you know, and most of the time it's no fault of their own because they didn't work there 4 months ago. And they didn't, you know, and so they didn't get the message from their boss or whatever. And so that's the challenge we run into too. But at least if they know that we did our due diligence and that we did the best we can to set this up and to let them know what we need and what's happening way in advance, at least then there's a certain amount of, you know, respect in that we did the best that we could and that we gave them all the information that we could, you know, because, you know, I think professionalism often respects professionalism. It's like, oh, okay, you're together, you know what you're doing. Let me try to be together and know what I'm doing too, because you've worked so hard. So hopefully most people react to that and are like, oh yeah, I want to work hard too. You know?
Yeah.
That's what you hope.
And I think that's true. And I like that. I like the way that you say that. That sounds good. But then there's always things that go out the window. Like, do you remember one of the years we had our tech at the Highline Ballroom when we got there to tech and they were in the middle of their drag brunch? They did the guy, the person who booked us that we signed our contract with that said the drag brunch was canceled that day. And we were teching from like 2 to 5. And we get there and it's in the middle of this drag brunch. It's a full seated house. There's a show going on stage. And the guy that we had booked with had quit or got fired. And then the new guy didn't know. And that was terrifying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And we're all up in that little balcony, trying to get ready and everything, and trying to figure stuff out while the drag brunch is going on. Oh,
yes.
my God.
Oh, it was a nightmare. And then what they ended up doing, they were very gracious. They shrunk their show, and then we had to. I remember sitting up there with our phones, and we were all texting everybody who was supposed to come into tech to tell them to like stay home, like don't come for another hour. And then we had to cram our tech into. I think we had like maybe an hour to tech, something insane for that Sunday Golden Pasty show.
It's crazy.
But that is the thing. You can plan and plan and plan, but you have to be able to kind of roll with it a bit, and you have to be able to not lose your cool and stay calm while you roll. As terrifying as that might be.
That's right. Yeah, because in that specific situation, I think the guy that we had talked to had been fired or something.
Yes.
So the new guy didn't even know.
No, they had no idea. And so we're showing them the contracts, and they're just like, we never saw that. I'm like, this was signed like 8 months ago. Oh my God, it's such a nightmare. But, you have another thing, too, that I admire. And this, I think, lends itself. Not only your capabilities make you, a very much desired stage manager all around the world, but you also, you deal with people very well in a very calm way. I've seen you deal with divas. I've seen you deal with people who were maybe not feeling up to snuff. I've seen you deal with people who were drunk AF. I've seen you deal with so many different scenarios, and you always kind of say the right thing to the performer to get them in the zone at that moment. How did you become such a finesser of people? It's just your natural personality.
I think it comes down to empathy and putting yourself in that person's shoes and thinking, okay, if I flew from San Francisco and I'm nauseous and I feel like I'm going to die, but I want to do this show, that's a horrible feeling, or, if I'm totally drunk, and I still want to perform, it's like, are you going to fall down? Like, can you do it? Or, if it's like, but I mean, it's, and I think also just, from having been a performer my whole life, also, I know what it's like to have stage fright. I know what it's like if something goes wrong on stage, or I know what it's like if something unexpected happens, like you don't get to run your act, or if, whatever, I know what those things are like. And I feel for people, especially if they're having a bad day or whatever. I do my best, I think, to put myself in their shoes and see it from their perspective, and, try to think, okay, what would I want someone to say to me, or what would I want someone to do for me in that situation? And, that's the best that one can do, just try to have empathy, try to think about what it would be like to be in that situation.
You're so sweet, David.
I just try to be nice to people.
I know, I love you. I threatened to kill you 100 times. It's only love kill. I never mean it when I say it. That's why I think we balance each other out nicely backstage.
I love it.
I know, right? Well, you've watched from the wings while like dozens of award-winning performances have taken place. Do you have a takeaway, something that you see when that act is on stage, be it at any competition or at Exotic World? Have you ever, do you see the act that's going to win and you say in your head, like, that's the act that's going to win?
Sometimes. Sometimes. I think it's only sometimes, because oftentimes when you get to that festival competition level, so many of the acts are so good that it's so hard to pick one, and then it just comes down to what the judge is looking for at that particular moment, or what the judges all how they all score or whatever, and how that averages out or whatever. But I think what makes sort of an an award-winning act is either something that's unique, that's never been done before, or something that you can see the performer is completely in the zone and is very passionate about what they're doing, and has that sort of stage presence, and or an act that just literally takes your breath away, that you stop breathing, and then you're like, oh, when it's over or at a moment, you're like, oh wait, I have to breathe. That's sort of that feeling when like, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
Or something even that keeps your attention, because there's some whether it's a TV show or some whatever, you can get bored. And you're like, oh, okay, it's been a minute, I don't want to watch anymore. But something super captivating, and even after all the acts that you've seen or whatever, if you're completely drawn in and completely pulled into it for whatever reason, then oh wait, this has grabbed my attention for whatever reason. So
has there something that you can recall that's taken your breath away recently?
Well, not recently, because not
recently, but maybe like a year ago.
When I was in Alaska in March, right? Actually,
right before this, yeah.
Like sort of, kind of, because I think it was the 15th or the 16th or something like that of
Didn't
March.
you have to come back early? Didn't you guys all have to hop back early?
I couldn't get a flight. I wanted to come back early, but I couldn't. I couldn't get a flight, so I think I came back on St. Patrick's Day.
Wow.
Which was when I was supposed to come back.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was in Alaska, there was I love the acts that have the layered costumes.
Yeah.
So you'll have like 4 or 5 reveals, and you just like, you just have that, oh my God, reaction so many times, because someone comes out in a costume, you think it's going to be one reveal, oh, we'll go down to a bra, and then that'll be it. But then they just like have all these costumes and underneath this one thing. It's like, oh my God, I love that, because I think it's the unexpected. I think that's what I really like.
I like that too. I always think it's like a trick. It's like those kind of acts. I'm like, oh, it's like a trick costume. It's so fun.
And also just stuff that you never, that I never would have thought of. Remember the woman? Was she from Bratislava or I don't even. Who did the plastic, clear plastic
on the box?
On the box,
which we had to. Box.
Which we had to bring from, it was ridiculous.
Oh, but no, I think we found it backstage, and you and I were like lugging it up onto the stage, because this was the year of the drag brunch. And of course, her whole act was critical around this box and light and plastic. And we were like, what is happening?
And I think she had a fan.
Yeah, she had a fan.
She went to, Target or, the drugstore and bought these plastic tarps, clear plastic tarps, and she's pulling them out and unfolding it. And I'm just standing there like, what is this woman going to do? And she's tiny, tiny little gorgeous woman, tiny. She's like, I'm like, what is she going to do with this plastic? And then the music starts, and she turned. I can't remember if she had a fan or if she just moves it herself.
She had a fan behind her. There was a little fan behind her.
But with the lighting and the way she moved, it was unbelievable.
I wish I remembered her name. I'm going to look it up. And I feel like she was from like Poland or something. Like
I don't remember.
Something like that. I'm going to look. It was stunning. And it was. We were looking at each other in tech. Well, first of all, because we had to carry that big ass box on the stage. And we were like setting it all up and frantic anyway. But it was absolutely stunning and gorgeous.
Yeah. And it's funny. I can't remember. I don't know if we're Facebook friends or not, but I've never seen or heard from her again.
No, and I didn't even know her. I just remember we saw her video and we were like, "Oh, it's really interesting." But
it was so great.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was breathtaking, and the lights were gorgeous. They were gorgeous. They did a great job with it because they were inspired by it too and wanted it to be beautiful. Yeah. But that kind of segs into my next question: is if someone were to say, "David, I need a tarp," would you get triggered?
That all depends on whether we knew about it before, but thank goodness they're asking.
Yes.
Because then the safety of the person and people after them, because it's a lot easier just to take up the tarp, than it is to try to get glitter off a carpet.
Yeah, or food particles off the stage before the next act comes out and slips in it. I've been
Yep,
that act. I've
exactly.
slipped in food particle. What's your pet peeve? If you have like a pet peeve of some bad behavior or things that you would say, hey, don't do this, or things to be aware of that performers should be aware of, whether it's backstage etiquette or on stage etiquette, which I think I know what you're going to say because you just said it.
I think backstage, it's people. There's a couple people who take up the entire dressing room with all their stuff, and all just, it's like everyone gets like 1 foot of space. And
Yes.
that's it.
Welcome to
It's like,
burlesque.
stay in your tiny space, because there's if there's only one person in the dressing room, fine, take up the whole thing. But if you've got 10 people in the dressing room, stay in your space.
Yes.
That's one. Two, don't touch other people's costumes or props or anything else. Three, don't touch other people.
Yes.
Period. Don't touch their hair. Don't touch their costume. Especially without asking. But why? Even you're backstage. You're trying to get ready. You're trying to get in your zone. You don't want someone touching you. And then, so it's sort of an overarching thing. Just be respectful of your fellow performers. That's my my biggest pet peeve is disrespect.
Yes.
Because everyone's there for the same reason. Everybody wants to have a great show, and it's really hard to have a great show if you'd feel if you're not comfortable and you don't feel safe. And then specifically as a stage manager, people who do a glitter dump or a liquid dump or food or fire and don't tell anybody. And it's like, if you want to do fire in your act, maybe I can arrange it with the venue to sort of quote unquote look the other way if it's really quick, but if you do it without telling anybody, we as the production can get fined huge amounts of money. The venue can get fined huge amounts of money. Something could actually get set on fire if the curtain isn't actually fireproof. And of course they're supposed to be, but if there's a prop or before it coming on, before or after, it could be very, very bad.
It puts the whole production in jeopardy.
So, or, if you do a glitter dump that you didn't tell anybody about, then the host has to vamp forever and ever and ever in order for, the people to clean it up. And
yeah.
It just takes
and
forever.
We might not have the right tools to clean it up. I mean, now with the festival, we know we need a mop, we need a broom, we need towels. They're at every show no matter what. But if I have nothing on my list there are shows that I carry it to and from and we don't even need it. But we just know we need to have it there just in case. But if you don't have those tools there, then you're shit out of luck for the next performer. I mean,
exactly.
I think we've been up there with like playbills, like wiping glitter off the stage.
Oh, yeah. And some glitter just doesn't want to come up too, But it's just, again, it goes back to that respect of your fellow performer, because if you've got red glitter in your act and that performer comes up with a white costume or even a black costume, that red glitter is going to get all over it, and they're going to have to dry clean that costume, or maybe it will never come out. As we know, glitter never leaves.
No, it's with you forever. A lot of places don't even allow it anymore. I've done so many shows in the past couple of years where they're just like, no glitter. And a lot of the venues don't want it. They don't want any glitter because they're like, it gets in our speakers, it gets everywhere, we can never get it out, and they just don't want it.
Yeah, and that can actually make or break whether a production gets invited back to that venue.
Absolutely.
So because you don't want to leave something for the cleanup crew to have to vacuum up all this glitter that may or may not vacuum with their machine. They might not have a shop vac.
No, so many, they're not used to it. It's just like the sound crew and the light people. They're not used to so many of the things that we bring to the table. My pet peeve, and I know you know this because we've whispered in the corner about it, is when people bring friends backstage. Now no one would dare to. But you have kicked so many people out of dressing rooms. I love it. I cannot stand when people bring look, if you're headlining a show and you've got your own dressing room and you've got your own space, that's your jam. But at festivals where everybody's crammed in little spaces and people try to bring friends backstage, I go bananas. And yeah, I know you do too.
It's like, hello, are you in the show?
That's exactly how you do it. I just felt like we were backstage. I feel good now. That is exactly how you do it. You're so nice.
Oh my God. It's like, I'm sorry, I don't recognize you. what are you doing back here?
Right, because a lot of times we don't really know the people, so we're like, is that person in the show? We don't know, so you have to do it tactfully.
Oh my God. Yeah,
And then
no.
they're like, I'm here to zipper up Peggy Sue's costume. I'm the only person
like,
who can zip
we
it.
have people for that.
Yeah,
we
like, no.
It's like, we have people who can do that.
Yes, I know.
It's okay.
But yeah, that's another one of your amazing
gosh.
skills. You're the graceful kicker-outer.
Well, it's just it goes back to respect and safety. Some people don't want to be naked and changing in front of strangers backstage. You know,
No.
It's very vulnerable. It's a very vulnerable moment.
No, and we have a responsibility to provide a safe environment for people all across the board as well. So now no one would dare, but it has happened before in the past. Just quickly disposed of. You also, though, over the years have cultivated relationships with all the legends. How's that? Like working with these performers from the 40s and the 50s that you've had a chance to not only become friends with, but, be backstage with in these moments before they go on, and these moments that are so special to them. Some of them haven't stepped on a stage in, 30 years, 40 years, and then you're like the last person they see as you swoosh them off into Dr. Footlights. Like, that has to be exciting.
So many of them are the sweetest, most gracious women I've just ever met. And they're, it's like, oh my God, will you be my mom or my grandma? Like you're just, and they just emanate love, and also they just want to have a good time. And some of them get so nervous, because maybe they're 70 or 80 and they haven't been on stage in 20 years or something, or they haven't been on stage in a year, but also what's funny about them is they're very competitive too, between themselves, and a lot of them are taskmasters and very much perfectionists because they want everything to be right,
Yeah, and I worked in a time when they were working in these proper theaters with proper full crews, and they had everything down. And I think like that just comes flying right back to them the moment that they step right into that backstage area.
Definitely, yeah. But no, I really cherish those relationships because they all have so many great stories to tell, and it was so different back then. They had agents, and they would tour the country on a circuit, or they'd go tour internationally. And they actually made money. Yeah.
Can you imagine?
No. So, but yeah, no. And it's an honor to be able to have, had relationships with Tora Satana and with Satan's Angel,
amazing.
And Candy Caramello, Joan Arlene, these amazing legends of
No, and we've
showbiz.
lost so many over the past couple of years too. It's been really heartbreaking to kind of look back and think about how many we have lost, like everyone you just mentioned.
Right.
Yeah, but you were you backstage with me when Tempest fell?
Yes.
We were together when Tempest fell. I think we were standing right next to each other. Gosh.
We were.
That was terrible. Mm-hmm. But working with Tempest Storm, terrible. Aside from that, you've worked with her several times. She only fell the once at our show, and that was not our fault.
Not our fault, no.
No. But that was terrible. That was a terrifying moment.
It was very bad. Absolutely terrifying. And some guy was trying to film it. You remember that?
Yes, I do remember that. And I remember Luke Littell went over and grabbed his camera and pulled out the tape and I believe broke it.
Probably.
Which is the right thing to do. Too. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But I think you and I were kneeling with Tempest.
We were, yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That was a lot.
That was totally a lot, but dealt with it very well. You've dealt with all the situations. Have to kind of take everything that comes across the stage when it happens. And anything can happen.
Of course. Yeah. And that's part of the magic, but also part of the terror,
Yeah. You're living on the edge of a cliff at all times.
That's right.
It's a lot safer on stage.
Oh my God.
So you have bounced back onto the stage. The Bishop of Burlesque is your alter ego. He is a character. He is a performer. How did the Bishop come to be?
Foxy Tan and I were in Toronto for the Toronto Burlesque Festival in July of 2010. And she looked at, we were, eating, or had just finished eating. She looked at me and she said, "Oh, you're the Bishop." And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my name. That's my last name." She's like, "No, you're the Bishop of Burlesque."
Oh, I love it.
And I was still not getting it. I'm like, "Yeah, that's my name." She's like, "No, you're the Bishop of Burlesque." And I was like, "Oh, that sounds really cool." She's like, "I'm going to make you a costume." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And people have said that to me a lot, for whatever reason. I was going to get a Sheriff of Tittytown costume, and that never happened.
Sheriff of Tittytown. Bishop of Burlesque has a nicer ring to it, I think. Sheriff of Tittytown. Maybe for a Wild West show.
And so January of 2011, I was in Minneapolis for their festival. I think it was still called BOMB at that point. Best of the Midwest Burlesque Festival. And there was my costume, and I think it was in an Eddie Bauer box.
Wow.
Because Foxy Tan was in Hawaii, I think, at the time, but she left me a costume, and that was the start. And so I had this costume. I had to come up with a character, to go with the costume.
And so then you came up with the blessing, which is what
the blessing, yeah.
And so the blessing you do at the New York Burlesque Festival, you always kick off the Thursday night show with the blessing, and you do it around the world. You do it at most of the places you go to stage manage now.
Correct. Yeah, I've done it in New Zealand, and I do it in Vegas, and lots and lots of different places.
Omnium, Pastium, G-stringum.
Tasselum,
G-stringum.
Yeah.
It's so good, right. And the audience gets into it, and I think it's become like a tradition
they love it
now.
Oh yeah, the audience absolutely I think that's one thing that any good stand-up comedian or any good host will realize, is that the audience loves to be involved.
Yeah.
If you look at any good MCs, they're always having some sort of interaction with the audience, and most of the time they'll go back at the end of the show, and connect with somebody that they've connected with at some point. Because the audience loves to be involved.
Oh yeah,
they love to feel like they're part of the show,
become part of the family, and the more the audience is involved in a burlesque show, the better that show is.
Yeah, well, you need their energy.
Yeah, but you also used the Bishop character. You did a gay marriage initiative. You got married 1,010,000,000 times. You in all different states and places. Tell me about that and what created that idea, that concept.
So that was my hashtag staged wedding. So it was, I think it was 2012, and federal marriage equality was not a thing, but certain states had, same-sex marriage was legal in certain states, but like Massachusetts, I think, for example. And we were pushing really hard to get other states. And so I had this idea that if an audience were to see a same-sex marriage on stage during a show, that maybe they would realize it wasn't that scary. And hopefully they would realize that it didn't take anything away from them, that it didn't harm them in any way. And so the sort of pretense was that this was an actual wedding that was happening in front of the audience on the stage during a burlesque show or a burlesque festival. And I went from state to state. The first state I did it in was Alabama, of all the crazy places.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And it was funny because I talked to the producers and some people involved, and I was like, "Are you sure this is okay? Are you sure no one's going to run up on stage and, get really angry and pull a gun or something,
Yeah.
Because this was it was either 2011 or 2012, so I was like, you don't want to piss off the audience,
no,
or make them angry if they get it, so you don't want to get violent. But no, they were like, no, it's we were in Huntsville, Alabama, and they're like, no, it's and we were in this refurbished mill, like it used to be a mill. There was a big silo and a big smokestack, and I think at one point there had been a windmill or something. I don't know.
That's a crazy place to have a show.
Basically, an old factory, and it had been converted into a bunch of stores and booths and stuff for artists and small businesses, and it was really awesome. So they're like, no, it's a safe space. You're all right. And so we did it. We did the first one on stage. I had like 5 attendants on each groom's side, and usually the host will be the officiant, and I think I did it in like 15 states or something like that.
And how was it received? Was it always received well?
Always, yeah. People were really excited, and most people thought it was real.
How did you find your husband?
That depends. Most of the time it was planned ahead, but one time in Pennsylvania, in Jim Thorpe, Pennsylvania, at Jacqueline Hyde's show.
I think I was at that show with you.
I think you were.
Yeah.
I just grabbed some guy from the band.
Yes. We were at that show together.
Whose name I don't even know.
You don't even remember
his name.
Your 15th husband's name?
Yeah, I don't.
Did you have a favorite? Did you have a favorite husband?
Oh my God, I'm not going to say. I love all my husbands.
I mean, come on, Elizabeth Taylor.
I love all my husbands equally. They're all amazing. No, but I married Zora Phoenix. I married the Mad Marquis. I married Tito Benito. I married some really cool people. And then I married some guy in Hawaii whose name was Romeo.
Oh, perfect.
So, but it was great. And then, and I officiated actually at a couple of weddings too at BurleyCon, because we were just pushing for marriage equality.
Yeah.
And it was funny because I think right after we did the marriage in Washington State at BurleyCon, Washington State got marriage equality. So I think that was like 2012, 2013, something like that.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of other places where we did the stage wedding. So it was my #stage wedding tour, where the states got marriage equality after we had done a stage wedding there.
That's amazing.
And then, yeah. So
Turning perceptions.
It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot of fun, but also, it was a political act. It was political activism, performance activism.
Why do you think burlesque lends itself so well to being a platform for activism within performance? Because it certainly does, and it's a constant theme when I talk to people.
I think it does because not only is it unexpected, but it's also already on the fringe. So, and artists, I think, are usually the hardest hit by oppressive regimes because that's the best way to comment on society. The jester was the only one who could really insult the king. And, even in Hamlet, the way that Hamlet told this story about his uncle killing his father was through a play. Theater is, I think, the best way to comment on current events. And to, I'm sure that that's even what they were doing, in Commedia dell'arte, and, even Punch and Judy, the little puppets would comment on, class relations and everything else. No. So I think that performance in theater is the best way to do that.
It gets the message across, and it really enables you to, I think, reach audiences that aren't just always preaching to the choir, especially when you travel around like you did. You're taking a message that in New York, of course, we're like, yeah, but you go to Huntsville, Alabama, you're not too sure.
Yeah, I mean, we were in Atlanta, Georgia, well, actually Decatur, but so we did it a couple of places in the South, and in New Orleans. Shockingly, New Orleans it was harder to find a show that wanted, that was okay with the stage wedding, because there were a couple of shows where like, oh yeah, my audience wouldn't like that. My audience wouldn't be comfortable with that.
Wow.
And I was like, wow, that's a statement.
Did that bother you then to go and work at that show?
Oh yeah.
I'm like, excuse me?
Yeah, but I was like, maybe you should have more faith in your audience, But producers believe what they believe, and they want to, they want to make money. So, they don't want to insult their audience.
Yeah,
so,
I can see that, but
strongly
disagree.
Yeah, no, I think you need to push your audience, and expect more from them.
No, absolutely. Absolutely.
And trust that they'll go on that journey with you.
I think I was at that Atlanta show with you too. Is that when we went to the gay bar and did Jell-O shots?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was the first time I ever did a Jell-O shot. You remember the gay softball team came in and they were celebrating, and they had the Jell-O shots, and they came around, and it was in a strip mall. It was in a strip mall.
It was in a strip mall.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. Oh my God.
And then we went to a restaurant and I had my first official real sweet tea. I remember my food and drinks from my world tours.
Oh my
God.
God, I love it.
Oh my God, it's so crazy. But David, you also you're like a life coach. You give a lot of advice. You spread a lot of positivity, especially online and social media, which can be a place for a lot of darkness and non-positivity. What inspires you to try to help people? I mean, I think you help people on stage. Like everything you just said, that's helping, that's learning, that's growing, that's expanding. And then you take that online as well in social media. Like what drives you to do that?
There's so much hate in the world. Actually, I don't believe there is really. I think that there's a very small percentage of people who are just really loud
Yes.
and vocal. And so and it's news. Or it's not, I don't think it's news, but it's newsworthy. Maybe it gets clicks and it gets ratings. So you see it a lot more. You know, someone's much more likely to report on a murder than they are on somebody helping someone else, unfortunately, because it's going to get more ratings. And so, you know, it's hard to find good news on social media. So, you know, through my work coaching people and counseling people, you know, I just realized that social media can really be very, very damaging to so many people because you compare yourself to others, which no one should ever do because it's just a path to insanity.
Yes.
So just seeing, you know, how many people are really hurt by social media, I just try to put something out there to just sort of help people out and sort of remind people that most of social media is made up, you know, and most of it is very, very cultivated and very sculpted, you know, and it's not real. You know, you never know what's right outside the frame. And you never know whether they just pushed everything, you know, out of the frame and their house is a complete mess, but that one piece of wall looks great, you know, and I mean, you know, hilarious. I know people who've done social media posts, you know, from the waist up wearing nothing, you know, or they're wearing, you know, this beautiful, you know, elaborate costume from the waist up and they've got jeans on, you know, or sweatpants and socks or something like that, you know, because all that matters in social media is what the camera sees. What's outside the camera is completely irrelevant. And also I think, you know, the amount of filters or makeup artists or hair and stylists that come in, you know, for someone to look, you know, quote unquote amazing or beautiful or gorgeous in a social media post, you don't know how many hours they spent putting their makeup on or how long it took to do their hair, or, you know, whether the jewelry is borrowed or whether the outfit or costume is borrowed. You know, I mean, you know, some people even, you know, borrow pets and kids, you know, I mean, it's not real.
That's
it's
crazy.
just fake, you know.
I have a kid if somebody wants to borrow her.
You know, because, you know, they'll do all sorts of crazy stuff for photo shoots, you know.
Yeah, well, it's showbiz, isn't
just,
it? I mean, social media is a stage now, and I think that's the important thing to remember. It's a stage. People put as much effort into that post on their feed as they would in a show performance, you know, 9 out of 10 times, and I think you've got to remember that to keep it in focus.
Definitely. And that's the thing, too, is, you know, just to remember that just like burlesque is about, you know, artifice and glamour is really the mask that one puts on. You know, it's a costume that you put on. Excuse me. Most burlesque performers don't look like they look on stage in real life, so much so that sometimes I don't even recognize people.
For sure.
You know,
Absolutely.
people, and, you know, I mean, people that I know very well, if I see them out of costume or out of makeup, sometimes or out of wigs, sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, who are you? You know? But I think it's important to remember that so much of social media is, like you said, it's a performance. It's not real life.
Even though it imitates it.
Yeah. So if you compare your real life to someone's social media life, of course it's going to fall short because it's not there. What you're comparing it to is not real.
No. You're a kind heart. You have a clear vision. What advice would you give people, specifically performers or anybody struggling right now with 2020, with not being able to work, with not being able to get on stage, not being able to see our friends and be backstage and rejoice in those moments together that, so many of us now realize are so precious, and they were so precious. I often say, like, my last gig was at the Slipper Room. It was 2 nights, I think, before everything shut down, and I didn't want to do it. And I was like, I don't want to go. It's late. I don't feel like packing my bag. Blah, 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 blah. And now I'm like, I'll come back. Like, I wish I was in that moment more, But what advice would you give to people struggling right now?
Two things. One, that it's temporary. Even if this lasts until March, which it may, or April,
oh my God.
it's temporary. It's not forever. It feels like forever, but it's not forever. And that's the first thing I would do, just to remember that, this is not forever. And then secondly, reach out to people. Do FaceTime, call people, text people, don't, as you're isolating in your house physically, don't isolate mentally or emotionally. Make sure that you're talking to your friends and your loved ones and your family, the family that you like. Don't talk to the ones you don't like.
No, it's only going to make it worse.
Exactly. And also, so those are the 2 main things I would say. Just remember it's temporary, and make sure that you're connecting with people, even if you can't see them in person. And, and also, in places where they have cars, people are driving by other people's houses and waving, or they'll leave something on the porch. I know people, will go in Central Park and they'll sit on benches, 10 feet apart from each other and wave or whatever, or shout, just to sort of see other people.
Yeah.
And, but I think that's really important, especially considering that this is going on and on and on and on and on, is to make sure that you don't, even though we're isolating physically to protect ourselves and the ones that we love, it's important that you continue to make connections. Otherwise, we're all going to go insane.
What do you look most forward to about getting back to work and life? Like, what can't you wait to do?
Hugging people,
yeah,
with permission, with consent, but just that physical contact, and just like being able to hang out at a bar or backstage, or even at a restaurant or something, or at a picnic.
Yeah,
just to be able to hang out with a bunch of friends.
The simplest things.
Yeah.
What's next? What's next for you? What's your next project? Your next thing that you're going to roll out? Or
well, I am doing right now I put videos on Marie's group on Facebook every Tuesday and Friday.
For Marie's Crisis.
Yeah, because Marie's Crisis Piano Bar, we're not open right now, so we're online. And I'm doing a Get Out the Vote video for tomorrow, Tuesday.
But you guys are rolling out content pretty regularly through.
Oh yeah, there's content every night. Every night there's a happy hour slot and an evening slot every night.
So Marie's Crisis Facebook page, which is a really cool bar here.
Yeah, Marie's group with no apostrophe. Yeah,
Marie's group.
No apostrophe in Marie's. Yeah, you have to join, but we accept most everybody. But it's just a private group to keep out the riffraff.
Yes, keep out the riffraff.
But yeah, so I've been doing that, and I'm getting my website together.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, to get teach some classes and do more coaching and stuff, because I can do that over video.
Yeah.
And I'm working on. I got a couple of things in the back of my mind, trying to see if I can bring them forward. To do some more video content separate from the piano bar. Because since most of what we're doing now is video content or podcasts, I'm trying to figure out how to hop on that train.
Yeah, it's a whole new world, and it's a big learning curve too. It's
definitely,
it's something. But you know what? We'll come out of this with a whole new skill set.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing. You got to reinvent yourself. You know, we've got to, because, you know, if there's no Broadway until, I think it's June now or
Is
something.
it June? I thought it was like March or May.
I think it's end of May, June. I think that's what they've, I mean, maybe fingers crossed it'll happen sooner, because that would be great.
Who knows?
But, you know, but if there's no Broadway, that most likely means that we're not going to have live performance in New York City and smaller venues.
Yeah.
You know, so we just got to look for, you know, opportunities to do stuff outdoors, and, you know, and just reinvention opportunities, ways to do other things, and use video and use social media for good.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's life.
If we can.
Yeah, and we can, so we must. David, thank you so much for being on the Bump and Grind with me.
Thank you. It's been so great to see you.
And that was my chat with the lovely David Bishop. Keep up to date with David on Instagram at Burlesque Bishop, and you know where to find me at Angie Pontani. Hey, put some gas in my tank. Follow or subscribe to the Bump and Grind wherever you stream this podcast, and leave a 5-star review. Until next time, keep shimming, and I'll meet you back behind the curtain on the next Bump and Grind.
This has been a Giant Panda King production. You can find us at giantpandaking.com and on Instagram at giantpandaking.